holiday baked macaroni and cheese. And I'm going to be entering it into the Dairy Good Cookbook sweepstakes. I usually make it with 3 different cheeses: Colby Jack and Monterey Jack cheese and sharp cheddar cheese. Here I have my elbow macaronis that have already been boiled. When you're boiling your macaronis, your elbow macaroni, you want to make sure that you don't overcook it. If you overcook it, it's going to become a mushy mess. Also, while you're boiling it, you want to add a teaspoon of salt and also a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of oil or butter, margarine, whatever you have on hand. So here we have what I like to comprise in my cheese sauce. We've got onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, paprika, a little bit of hot sauce, cayenne pepper, and kosher salt. And here's a close-up of some cheese that I pulsed in the blender. And that's the Colby and Monterey Jack and sharp cheddar cheese. I'm ready to make my cheese sauce now. I'm adding my flour to my butter, which is sizzling. It's a little over a 1/3 cup. This is going to make a nice brew for the cheese sauce. One thing I forgot to mention, with the roux, you really want to use a whisk if you have one. A fork or a fork will do, but if you have a whisk, you really want to use it. You want to have at least 1.5 inches of milk in a nice size saucepan. Again, I'm making a large portion of the macaroni and cheese, as this is something I usually make for holiday dinners. So, adding in the milk, and we're just going to mix really well the flour, butter, and milk. And you see that I've reduced my heat. This is extremely important. Reduce your heat or your milk is going to curdle. A low and slow process. It's very, very, very important. What will happen is, if you allow your milk to get too hot, it's going to curdle. You're going to have a big lump. It's going to curdle, and you're going to have a big lump of cheese gum that separates from the liquid. So it's going to separate out like this, but it's not going to get stretchy and resemble like a queso. It's going to look like literally a gum ball, and it's going to separate from the liquid. So this is a very low and slow process. So now that the flour and butter has basically dissolved, I'm going to begin adding in my seasonings. So I'm going to add in a little bit of paprika. You don't want too much paprika. just a couple of pinches. I'm adding in my ground black pepper. You can do like a teaspoon of ground black pepper. And the paprika gives it a nice smoky flavor, a nice smoky undertone, which usually complements the bacon that I top the mac and cheese with on holidays. For today though, I won't be adding bacon. I know you guys are wondering from the last video, am I on a bacon strike? No, I just don't have any on hand right now. So, got a good amount of black pepper in there. I'm going to add like a half tablespoon, well, yeah, of the garlic powder. Not too much. You don't want it to overpower, so I'd say maybe even like a half tablespoon to maybe a teaspoon and a half. You really don't want to add too much because it will overpower your mac and cheese. I'm going to add in my onion powder, and the same goes for the onion powder. You don't want to add too much. So about the same measurement as the garlic powder. Teaspoon and a half to probably a half tablespoon. It depends on your portion. And I'm going to add in a couple of dashes of hot sauce. Well, maybe that's a few more than a couple of dashes. But the milk is going to drown it out. So it's only going to have like a spicy undertone. Like you're going to, it's kind of like a chaser, if that makes sense. If you try out the recipe, you'll see what I mean. So with the cayenne pepper though, which is what I'm putting in next, you want to be really careful with cayenne. It's very potent. Randall just gave me a look. It's very potent, so you really only want to use a pinch of this stuff. This stuff is like really potent. And the last thing that I'm going to add in before I put my cheese in is a little bit of kosher salt. I love kosher salt. You guys are probably like, what is with this lady and kosher salt? I like it. It's I only have to use a little bit of it, and it basically dissolves. So yeah, that's why I use it, and I like it. So now I'm going to begin slowly adding in my cheese. You want to do this slowly, again, like I said, because you want the consistency to be perfectly smooth. You don't want it to curdle. You want the cheese to be perfectly melted so that your cheese sauce is smooth. So I'm going to begin spooning that into my milk mixture here. And you can let it rest if your hands get tired. Okay, so I've been whisking the cheese sauce for a while now. And this is where you want to be. Check this out. See how it's so stretchy? I'm still mixing, but you can see the stretchiness of the cheese as it's combined with the milk to make an excellent creamy sauce. So that's where you want it to be. You want it to be stretchy like that. Like I said, like queso. And we're going to get ready and pour this over our elbow macaronis. Okay, so we're going to get ready and pour the cheese sauce over our elbow macaronis and mix it in really good for a nice and creamy result. This is a step that you also want to do slowly. Most part, your cheese sauce should be smooth, like so. Now we're just going to stir it in. All of your noodles coated. Before I put my baked macaroni and cheese in the oven is that I like to have cubes of cheese kind of interdispersed in the casserole of macaroni and melted cheese sauce. I still like to have cubes of cheese here and there, so I'll usually mix those in, and then I like to top it off with sliced cheddar cheese. Okay, so here we have the Colby Jack and the Monterey Jack and the cheddar. And I'm going to get ready to mix in the cubes and stir them around. And I may not use all of them. I know you guys are probably looking like those are really chunky, but again, they're going to melt down. And I like a little bit of chunk in my baked mac and cheese. I like it really cheesy. So I'm just going to stir these in. I can't stand dry noodles, so that's why I use a lot of cheese. So I'm just going to kind of mix those in really good. And I want to bury them in the noodles. Okay, so this is usually how it looks before I put it in the oven. Sometimes I use shredded, sometimes I just use thinly sliced block cheese. So I'm going to get ready and put it in the oven, and it's going to bake for at least 35 to 45 minutes. And it's going to help it to melt all the cheeses. The cheese sauce is going to set, and it's going to be the consistency of a custard. So here's our baked macaroni and cheese. And I'm getting ready to take it out. Looks good. Okay, so I'm gonna let the baked macaroni and cheese set. It's good to let it set for at least 15 minutes so that you can get nice neat squares and you don't have to worry about cheese and noodles sliding everywhere. So I'm gonna let it set for a little while so that you don't have to worry about cheese and noodles sliding everywhere as I slice it up. And then we'll get to plate it. Now I let my mac and cheese set for a little bit, and now I'm going to get ready and plate it.